Nice return fight. Let's see. It goes down in less than 2 months' time. Okay, let's talk about Turkey and some of those fights. And you just alluded to Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney. And so we found out just a couple of days ago that the plan right now is for the first ring card under the ring umbrella, not Riyadh season umbrella, will feature Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney. However, they won't be fighting each other. And according to the early reports, Ade, everyone's saying that this is happening in New York. Okay, makes sense. Ryan, Devin fought in New York, in Brooklyn, at Barclays Center in April of last year. But they're all saying Times Square, which I guess, with Turkey, anything is possible, and he has proven that. Times Square, to the best of my knowledge, hasn't hosted a fight in quite some time, if not ever. Times Square is a very busy place, and a lot of crazy stuff happens over there. MSG is literally like 5 minutes down the block. There's Barclays. There's a nice stadium in New Jersey. Why Times Square? I'm not sure, but they're not fighting each other, and so there's a lot to sink our teeth into, at least as far as these initial reports are concerned. And we've seen both Ryan and Devin with Turkey over the last week or so. They were both there in London at the Ring Awards. We know how it all went down. Everyone's making deals as a result of being in London around 2 weeks ago. The plan as of right now is Ryan Garcia versus Rolly Romero and Devin Haney against Jose Ramirez. Now, the initial plan seemed to be Ryan Garcia against Pitbull Cruz, but then, as we were told by, I think, Turkey himself, he said, hey, Pitbull's fighting on February 1st. He does want to put the cart before the horse. Much respect. I love that. So we're going with Rolly Romero. Now, Rolly versus Ryan, Pitbull versus Ryan, I like those matchups. Ultimately, what we all want is Devin Haney versus Ryan too. I don't love the fact that they're both on the same card, not fighting each other, with the plan of them fighting in October, just sort of waiting in the wings. You know how this goes. You tempt fate, you tempt the boxing gods, you slip, you break a hand. God knows what happens. You lose, controversy. Why are they not just fighting each other here in New York, the scene of the crime where the first fight happened a year ago? I don't know if I love this, Ade. I have to be honest.
I will say this off the jump. If they're not fighting each other, it's one person's responsibility. Someone's to blame on either side. So whether it be Devin and his team or Ryan and his team, someone has said no to not fighting each other. Because I think we've seen now with Turkey, he makes these fights and they turn around very, very quickly. We got to see Alexander Usyk Tyson Fury rematch straight away. We got to see Bivol Beterbiev straight away. He would have done this fight straight away. Someone on either side has said, you know what, no, let's have one warm up and then we'll go straight into it. I'm with you. I don't like it. We did this with Wilder AJ, and I interviewed Wilder. I'm like, God, you're actually on the same card as AJ, yet you're not fighting AJ. Like, this is just makes no sense. And all of a sudden, Joseph Parker beat Deontay Wilder, and Wilder AJ now looks like it's done forever. So I don't like the idea of rolling the dice like this. These guys should just go at each other straight away. It's not a case of, okay, Ryan hasn't fought for a year when this fight rolls around and Devin's had a couple of fights in between. No. Devin's not fought either. So they're both on an equal playing field here. Why do this? I will say this, though. Ramirez is a bit of a dangerous fight for Devin Haney. Devin Haney's coming off a defeat and a couple of knockdowns, and he got bashed up a bit by Ryan. I watched Ramirez's fight. I was there in Riyadh against Arnold Barboza Jr., and it was quite competitive. Ramirez is a former champion. He's no slouch. He's no scrub. This is a tough fight for Devin. I think Ryan can get past Rolly a bit more easier, but for Devin, I don't think this is a gimme. Again, considering what he's come through, I don't know if this is the kind of fight you want to walk straight into. Ramirez is still quite dangerous. So, yeah, I don't like the roll on the dice either. But again, it's not down to Turkey 100%. Someone on either side, and hopefully they're watching this video and they can confirm, Oscar confirm, or Bill can confirm, Bill Haney, someone has said no to this. Because this would be happening straight away if both parties wanted it.
Okay, so I'm going to push back on two fronts. Number one, I would also say Rolly Romero, no slouch as well. You look at who he's lost to. I mean, he doesn't lose to scrubs. He only has 2 losses.
True.
And losing to the likes of Pitbull, Tank Davis, like these guys aren't scrubs. The other thing is, I actually, and again, we're all kind of finding this out at the same time. I actually don't think it's on either Haney or Garcia as to why this fight isn't happening in May and why they're doing it this way. I think they've laid out a plan. Hey, you guys could fight under the ring umbrella. We've heard that the ring events aren't a part of Riyadh season. It's a different budget, right? I would imagine Haney and Garcia would ask for more money to fight each other as opposed to fighting the likes of Ramirez and Rolly Romero. And so it's a nice 1-2 punch. Hey, we'll do a deal with you. You fight, you get your teeth, you cut your teeth, you get your feet wet, you fight each other in New York. Excuse me, you fight on the same card in New York together on the same card on the same dais. So you'll create all kinds of buzz, and then you'll fight opening of Riyadh season in October for the big payday. And so I'm not saying it's anyone's fault per se, but I could totally see Turkey laying out this plan. Hey, fight on this card first for us, and then you fight each other on the big Riyadh season card in October. And part of the reason why I don't like this is A, you're tempting fate. Crazy things happen in the fight game. People slip, people get hurt, people lose. And the other thing is, look, for the most part, as much as people want to talk about the atmosphere at these events in Saudi Arabia, it's building, it's getting better. You would know better than anyone. But as far as the construction of the card is concerned and who's fighting on these cards, to be honest, I don't think that an Usyk Fury matchup, which features, a Ukrainian and an Englishman, is a huge stretch in Saudi Arabia if it's not happening in England. My point is, two American fighters, both with great ties to the West Coast in particular. I thought it was a stretch for them to fight in Brooklyn. Both with great ties to the West Coast, fighting to open Riyadh season, to me feels like a greater stretch than Beterbiev Bivol, Usyk Fury 2, Beterbiev Bivol 2, Ngannou Joshua, Ngannou Fury. Do you get what I'm saying? This one is the first time that we're getting two Americans fighting over there under the Riyadh season umbrella. And I don't know if it's going to go off as well as some of these other ones that we've seen over the past year and a half.
No, agreed. I mean, I was there for Latino night, and that had so many fighters from the West Coast who would have done big numbers on the West Coast. I mean, again, I mentioned Ramirez versus Barboza a bit earlier. That fight would have headlined in the West Coast. So many big ones. Ramirez main event against Chris Billam-Smith potentially could have done big numbers. So I think we've seen it before. We've seen fighters from the West Coast or America come over to Riyadh season and not all big numbers. Now, don't get me wrong, Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney are bigger stars than the guys I just mentioned. But the fact is, we still haven't seen American fans travel over like we have seen UK fans and some European fans come over to Riyadh. So, yeah, I think it's a bit of a push. I would like the fight to be in America. The first fight will be. I think the second fight should be as well, just because it does big numbers. We were both in Barclays, the Barclays Arena for their first fight, and we were astounded by the numbers, the noise, the numbers. And I almost felt like the rematch could do even bigger and better. And I actually felt if the rematch just went on pay-per-view, I know you said that both of them would have wanted quite a lot of money. I felt like it was such a big pay-per-view fight and they would have got their money anyway, because I think it's there's so much intrigue and sort of drama attached to both of these guys. So, yeah, look, I hate when fighters that are supposed to fight don't fight and can fight, and we kind of just wait and roll the dice and roll the dice. As you say, boxing is full of stories of rolling the dice and your numbers not coming up. And I'd hate not to see this fight because of injury, because of a delay or some sort, because of, worst case, someone losing or someone getting cut or some nonsense. If they're healthy and they can fight. What are you doing?
Otherwise, it's going to feel like a big tease that week in New York if it happens. Look, I'm happy Garcia's coming back. I'm happy Haney's coming back. These two guys aren't cupcake opponents, and they're going to be at the press conferences. And guess what? There's going to be more trash talk between them than between them and their opponents. You get what I'm saying?
I don't know. I think this the only thing I don't know. Rolly Romero.
Yes.
I mean, that guy literally lights a fuse wherever he goes. And
but there's a history there with Haney and Garcia. It's combustible.
There is, yeah. I agreed. One thing I will say, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be a crazy event. Honestly, it's going to be crazy. And I almost feel like Martin Bakoli and F.A. Jagba has been forgotten.
Yes, that was on the report too.
Is that the main event? I don't know. Is it?
Nah, come on. That's like me suggesting that Joseph Parker, Daniel Dubois is the main event over Beterbiev Bivol too. I know you love Bakoli.
You know I love Bakoli.
What's crazy about it all is if, in fact, the Times Square idea comes to fruition, I can't even wrap my head around that. It's like one of the busiest intersections in the world, and just like it would be a spectacle. It would be unbelievable. I just can't wait to see the details if, in fact, they go that route. Now, another little interesting thing, as first reported by Dan Rafael, the veteran boxing journalist, the card currently is slated for a Friday night, May 2nd. And some have suggested the reason why it's on Friday night is because Canelo Alvarez historically likes to fight on Cinco de Mayo weekend. May 3rd, he now has this relationship with Turki Al-Sheikh. Does he not want to go head-to-head with Canelo Alvarez? would make a lot of sense. What a weekend that would turn out to be. Now, according to Mike Coppinger of ESPN, all signs, all roads appear to lead us to a September showdown between Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford. We talked about that fight a little bit last week. And so if in fact that is the case, we're getting 2 Canelo fights this year. Great. We got them last year. If it's Crawford on the back end of the year, amazing. I do wonder what we see Canelo do in May. And do you believe this? Do you believe this is the reason why they're targeting a Friday night so that they don't go head-to-head with Canelo on Saturday?
No, I think they're just doing Friday just to be different. Again, you mentioned Times Square to be different, which again would be a spectacle. Friday would be different. It'd be another spectacle. It would almost be a throwback to kind of the ESPN Friday night fights, which everyone loved. So I almost feel like they're just doing Friday just to stand out and try something different and see if it works. I've always said that boxing shouldn't just be a Saturday event. I don't know why it is. Every other sport goes most days, at least in this country anyway. So I feel like they're just trying something different. I would be astounded if Canelo fights in May. Like, if the carrot being dangled in front of him is Crawford and the money that we're hearing potentially that both could be getting, the risk, I mean, you mentioned the risk of Ryan and Devin fighting, the risk of Canelo fighting. I know Canelo always gets through his fights and he never seems to be cut or hurt, but I mean, you're rolling the dice big time here on potentially hundreds of millions. I can't see Crawford fighting. I really can't. So I think Crawford's going to wait it out. And if Crawford waits it out, I can almost see Canelo waiting it out. If there was an obvious opponent, then yeah, okay, cool, fight. But there's not an obvious opponent. He's not going to go in there with Christian and Bealey. I know that's the one you like to kind of
I
push.
was waiting.
He's not
I
going
was
to do
foaming
that.
at the mouth, waiting to say Christian and
He's not. He's not. He's
Yeah.
not. And I don't know if there are opponents out there, like, I don't know, someone that he can blow away in 3 or 4 rounds. I mean, if that is the case, what's the point? I just don't see. Canelo's not going to get the same check for that. Who's going to put up the money for that? PBC are not going to put up the money for Canelo to fight a nobody and pay him what he usually gets paid. I don't think the people are going to turn up in their droves as they always do with Canelo fights. So I can almost see, and it's very rare, but I can see Canelo sitting this one out now until September if that fight gets announced with Crawford in the next couple of weeks. I just can't see either man risking it.
Canelo on Cinco de Mayo weekend is like fish and chips, peanut butter and jelly, mac and cheese.
What
Like
would you
this,
do? What would you advise? Put your manager hat on. Again, Crawford, biggest fight of this generation potentially for Canelo. Would you advise do what you normally do just to stay fit and sharp, or wait?
well, this would be counter to what I was just talking about regarding Garcia and Haney, right? Like you don't want to tempt fate. You don't want to slip on the banana peel and fight someone before the big fight. And so, yes, of course, with hundreds of millions, and Lord knows he doesn't even need more money than he has now. If in fact that is a done deal, and Coppinger is a great source, he is saying it's all but done, very close to being done. And we've seen FaceTime videos of the 3 of them, Turkey and Canelo and Crawford. It's incredible how far we've come, especially between Canelo and Turkey himself. If in fact it is,
I did say it last week. I said it last week.
yeah, no, you did.
You pooped on me. You pooped on me a little bit.
You were bullish.
Yeah.
And you know what? Shame on me, shame on anyone who doubts anything at this point, because boxing has now become the place where the big fights get made. MMA is the place where the big fights don't get made, apparently. John Jones, Tom Aspinall, and boxing is the place where these super fights get made. It's a wild world that we live in, Ade. So yes, I get it. It's just, to me, it's kind of wild. With how many years does Canelo have left? 2, 3 max? I don't know. Him not fighting on Cinco de Mayo is just something. I was just trying to figure out, why would you go on a Friday other than to be different? I don't know. I don't know if I buy going on a Friday just to be different. Tyson and Paul went on a Friday, but that's because they didn't want to go head-to-head with UFC. They also didn't want to go head-to-head with a football game happening. Like, there were reasons for it. To me, there has to be a reason why they would choose a Friday over Saturday. Or if they are, in fact, doing Times Square, maybe it's just like, hey, Times Square says you can only do this on a Friday. Who the hell knows?
Maybe. Look, I go. I'm just sort of playing devil's advocate here and chucking something else out there. I go with your theory of, look, they're going on a Friday because Canelo as always done, fights on a Saturday, Cinco de Mayo. I think that's more likely. But I'm just sort of putting my managerial head on here and thinking, what is Canelo even doing fighting when A, there's no sort of obvious opponent out there, and B, you're talking about the fight of this generation. If he were to fight Terence Crawford, like, Canelo, you're fit enough. We've seen you enough. You can chill out until September. I mean, everyone else seems to take one fight a year. You can do it for once in your career. And this might be the time to kind of say, okay, guys, I'm sitting it out. I've got enough money in the bank. We're good. Let's sit this one out till September and let's get ready for what could be the biggest challenge of his career. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see how it plays out.
Could I throw one out your way?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
A potential fight. So Canelo owns 3 of the 4 super middleweight titles. The IBF champ is William Skull. You beat William Skull in a fight that no one's really asking for, but you get that 4th belt, and now the Crawford fight is for undisputed super middleweight.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah. That would be insane. Honestly, that would be just
Insane in what regard?
Like my regard for Canelo to fight William Scott. It's a fight, by the way, it's a fight I think he'd win.
Yes.
But the idea of Canelo versus Crawford being for undisputed at 168 pounds would be incredible. What I will say, and this is the final one for me with regards to options, this fight needs to be signed before February 22nd. I've always said that if Bivol were to become undisputed, Canelo would want that rematch with Bivol at 175. Canelo would ask for that, and I think
you can't.
Want that as
well. If you're
sad.
Canelo and you've got the Crawford fight waiting in September, you ain't fighting Bivol in May. No way.
You know why? Because the Bivol one's a bit more. If you lose, you lose. You've lost to the bigger guy.
You can't come off a loss.
You've tried to be great again. You've tried to be great again, going to 175 pounds. You're too small. I saw Canelo the other week. He's 5'8". He's not big enough, but you know what? I'm daring to be great again. If you lose to Crawford, a guy coming up, it's a lot more pressure. I feel like he might want to roll the dice at 175 pounds again with Bivol. Just chucking it out there, Ariel.
It's fair. It's a fun one to think about. Let me ask you about 168 no rehydration, which is a part of the report as well. Any issues with either 168? I think most expected that. No rehydration clause.
Love it.
Love it.
I love it. You know, I love what Crawford's doing. Crawford's saying, you know what? Let's do this.
Bring it on.
Bring it on. I have big kahunas here. Let's go. I don't need a rehydration cap. I don't need any of that. I'm coming to your weight class. I think I can beat you. Let's go. And I honestly, dude, he doesn't need to do this. The fact he is doing this is just sensational. I will say this though. I don't know anyone that could force Canelo to do a rehydration clause.
Yeah.
You think that's in the contract, and Canelo's going to say, yeah, sure, let's do. Canelo's like, do you want to fight me or not? You've asked to fight me. You want to come to my weight class? Come. But don't start coming with all sorts of stipulations. So, yeah, no one's forcing Canelo to do anything. And I don't think Canelo would do a rehydration clause anyway. So, although I rate Crawford for doing the full 168 jump, I almost have to take a bit of that rating away because Canelo would never agree to do anything he doesn't want to do.
Of all the potential mega fights on the horizon in 2025, in the sport of boxing, from Better Be a Bivol 2, which I know is signed, but it's still kind of crazy that it's just happening so quickly. A potential Dubois-Usyk fight, Haney-Garcia, as we talked about, AJ Fury, we're still holding out hope. On and it goes. Canelo Crawford, on and on it goes. Where do you put Canelo Crawford in terms of your sort of interest level? Is that at the top of the list?
Number one by a gazillion miles.
By a gazillion? Despite the big, I mean, it's essentially a 147 pounder against a 168 pounder. I know his last fight was at 154, but yeah. It's a pretty big jump for Terence.
It's a big jump. 154 to 168 is a big jump, but Terence is pound for pound. Some people say pound for pound number 1. I mean, he's at worst number 3, at worst, right? I mean, whatever juggle you want to do between him, Inoue, and Usyk. So this is 2 guys that are, for me, top 6 pound for pound. So yes, their age will say that they're on the slide, and maybe so, right? But these are 2 guys at the very top of the boxing tree, and they're fighting. And look, Canelo really should be a 160 guy. Like I've been around 160 guys, I've been around 154 guys. Canelo's given so much away himself. Canelo's not a big 168. Benavidez is a big 168. Morrell's a big 168. Canelo's a 160 guy. At best, he really is. So there isn't too much size difference here. Yeah, there isn't too much. I've been around Crawford as well. Crawford's quite thick set. This is going to be something special. It's 2 demographics it brings in as well in America, the African-American, the Mexicans, the Mexican-Americans. This is a super fight of all super fights. Anything else that could be made this year is fighting for second place. This is number 1 by a country mile. I don't know in terms of revenue generation, but in terms of my interest, this is just special. This is special because this fight plays out about 1,000 different ways in my head, and I still have no idea who I'm picking if it gets made. It's just fantastic.